cannot say that doesn't look sick, dude. That looks awesome. This thing looks awesome. No way. So today we're going to be wrapping some shocks on the 6.7 Power Stroke, and here's why. So the 6.7 Power Stroke shocks are pretty rough. It looks like whoever had done some of the axle paint on this had oversprayed on it on a few spots, which that one's actually not the worst. The fronts aren't really that bad, but you can kind of see just a bunch of little wear and tear spots. There's some more of that. Eventually we'll go through the axles on this truck, but obviously we're trying to focus on that. But since I ended up buying some new shocks for this, we're gonna try and chrome wrapping them. We want the chrome wrap look on this because we got chrome wheels from Custom Offsets. We got the chrome caps, chrome badges and everything. So a little more chrome will not hurt this truck by any means. This is the main issue. It is just ugly. It is not very good looking of a shock, especially for the rears. And honestly, that's most of the part that you end up seeing from back here. So we're gonna end up pulling those shocks off. I ended up buying some new ones because these don't look like they've been replaced anytime soon. So that's kind of why I want to throw them on. Plus you can still see the shocks in the rear, and as far as for the fronts, those are the most visible ones. And before I forget, if this video was useful to you guys, make sure you like and subscribe, because I try and show you guys little tips and tricks, things that'll work, things that a lot of people don't show newcomers, especially in the truck community, people like gatekeeping. I'm going to show you how to get that nice chrome finish by only paying like 300 bucks for some rough country shocks, but they look fancy at the same time. Plus this wrap, I think that we bought, is only 20 bucks. So you're about $20 in wrap. I think it was about $260, $280 for shocks on the 6.7, and all of that I'll put in the link in the bio. So make sure you like and subscribe. Hopefully this helps you guys out and adds a little bit of a touch to your truck. So right here we got our rough country shocks. These are an M1 monotube shock absorber. So there's those. We got the fronts and the backs for them. The only thing that's gonna suck is whenever we cut this zip tie here, it's going to release the pressure and they're going to be completely maxed out. So it's going to be not difficult, but a little more work to get them inside the truck versus already having them done like this, cutting it and then sliding it inside the bracket. But we ended up getting, I think this was an 18-inch vinyl, chrome vinyl, because these things are about 17 and a quarter or something like that. So I wanted a little bit of extra for trimming at the top. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. It's been a while since I've done any type of a wrap or anything like that, but this is actually a pretty nice little chrome. I mean, that looks really good as it is. So to start off, I ended up just taping it, kind of rolling it, and then seeing how much of this wrap we're actually gonna need. And what I'll end up doing is kind of just making a little mark, probably about here, cutting that little strip. But this is ideally what it's what we're hoping it's going to end up looking like. And what I'm also going to do is grab a heat gun and warm up this shock, because this is cold metal. Whenever you're doing vinyl and everything, you want to have the surface warm or room temperature, because then it doesn't like really sticking to this. We'll end up only peeling back a little bit of the sticker at a time, just for it to get enough to stick, and then we'll slowly work it around the shock until it comes over. But this be the inside of the truck where it overlaps so no one sees it. And then obviously the top of the shock, if there's any extra like this that I missed at the top, that will be hidden, because if you can see more of the bottom of the shock, then you will want to overlap, try and keep it as clean as you can. If you're not going to see the bottom of the shock, then you can leave a gap like that. So whichever part's more visible, you want to leave it less pretty, which ideally we're trying to do it all as best we can. So now that I've got an idea, I'm going to roll it over, find the mark, which is going to be about right there. I'll make a mark here, cut that strip, and then that will be my template for the rest of these. So what I ended up doing here is I try to find the like actual center of this shock, because if this part is too high and over, it's gonna like cone. So you want it to be like a perfect cylinder, like you're rolling it in a perfect form, if that makes any sense. So you don't want this top over too far, and then you don't want this bottom over, because then when we go to wrap it, this part might line up perfectly, you know, but then at the top it's going to want to overlap, so it's going to call for more trimming and stuff. So I mean, all I really did was just eyeballed it as best I could to make it look like it was centered. So make sure your shock is also clean, no debris or anything on it. I probably hit it with microfiber rag. But before you start on this, also remember, lay this down on your new wrap so that you have a template for your next set. I already made my 2 little red lines, one at the top, one here at the bottom. So then now I have my template ready. I'll just put my level up to it, make a straight cut, and we're good to go from there. So let's see how this goes. So I kind of just peeled it back about an inch or so. I'm trying to touch the sticky side of it as much as you can. I started my first line so far. I mean, it looks pretty centered. So I'm just gonna work it, push the air out going this way because this is the way the vinyl is going. It's wrapping around the shock. So I'm just gonna work it, keep pushing all the air out that way and try and refrain from having bubbles. So I'm just letting it roll itself out. I'll probably warm up the edges a little bit because on the welds at the bottom of these shocks, it doesn't really want to conform to that shape very well. And this is all I'm doing, just slowly working it. It's curling, the wrap's coming undone by itself, and as you see as I'm pushing it, this is pulling itself up, so I'm just pushing it back and forth, working it. If I see any little bubbles, I'm trying to work them out. So like I said, I'm just working the bubbles, pushing everything out to the left. We got a little one here, let it come back a hair so I can push that bubble out. So far, so good. Paper's off. Getting close to our edge. We're gonna see how accurate we were on our measurement. So it's wanting to, like, you can see it here, it's wanting to pinch and ripple a lot. So I'm working the corners out, pushing the air out. It's mainly doing it in the middle. So I'm just working these out, pushing all the air out. Don't want any there. Look at that. So obviously there's dirty handprints all over it, but there is a, dude, that looks sick. This thing looks awesome. No way. So here's a little before, and then here's a little bit after. So we went from that to this. You cannot say that doesn't look sick, dude. That looks awesome. So we're gonna time lapse this part since I think explained it pretty decent. We're gonna time lapse this and see how this goes. So on here, this is my 2 lines that I made off my template. I used a level to cut it nice and straight, or as straight as I could. After that, this is where I am gonna peel back the wrap about an inch, and that's where I'm gonna go ahead and just stick it first, line it up as best I can straight, and then we'll continue the wrap from there. So right here, I'm trying to straighten it up, eyeballing it. You don't really need to measure unless you really want to in particularly. But here, I'm just running my hand left and right. I'm letting it unpeel itself. So back and forth, you're gonna get some bubbles, but I would just recommend stretching the wrap as much as you can. It's definitely gonna help you out in the end. And one of the biggest things is I would recommend removing the clear vinyl film right before you get to the end. Yes, you can overlap it. And over here, I just cut off any excess that is left. So that one was actually the easiest one because whatever excess was at the top, it didn't matter like if it coned, you know, like it didn't matter if this side went too high and overlapped up there, that was getting cut off regardless. And honestly, that came out pretty freaking clean. So I'd say the back shocks are the easiest. Now to move on to the very last one, and we'll have a set of 4. So for the final thing that I did is I went through everything with a heat gun. Anywhere that it overlapped, I went and hit that with heat. Any little bubbles, I heated it up and kind of pushed it in, and it seems to be breathing out. Like on the welds here, some of the wrap had went over it, and you can kind of see where it's bubbling up just a little bit. See if the camera kind of sees it. So right there, kind of like where it's raised up, I'm going to hit it with heat, and then it's going to get soft and kind of contour around that shape. So I'm going to heat it up just like that, all around the edge of it, and then just run my hands around it, gripping it. and then you see that it takes the actual shape of the weld, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, it's pretty cool how the way that this stuff works. So definitely would not use any heat until the very last step. Everything's nice and sealed. Where it overlaps here in the middle, it's kind of hard to see. Right here, there are some overlapping parts. So I'm going to run the heat down that so it bonds it together. So it was pretty cool because whenever I had hit these spots with heat, it took the shape of these holes. So I warmed it up, pushed it in with my finger, warmed it up, pushed it in with my finger, and just went through. So it took shape of that. And it even brought out some of the top arrows and everything. So that's pretty cool. So all the letters and everything came out once some heat was applied. Everything seems to be holding very well. Yeah, I'm actually super satisfied with how these came out. And outside, they look even better. That is freaking insane. So I had forgotten on this truck also, I got my Fox shocks here. So I'll probably end up pulling those. Pretty easy to get them out. Pull those and do the same, but for this video, we're just going to go ahead, install those, ditch these. All right, well, I think I got carried away. I can't leave things alone, and I saw those shocks, and I'm like, those need done too. So this is what I did. I did these at the same time, and I actually went as far as to wrapping the tops of these. So not 100% perfect, but I mean, they're actually pretty decent. I actually ended up doing the hole itself, and that actually came out pretty all right. So for my wrap job, I give myself a solid 6.8. It's pretty decent, but if you get really close and start staring at it, you'll notice some defects, but I don't care. I mean, it's pretty cool that I feel like it's an accomplishment to be able to wrap, you know, something like that and to put it on your truck. And I really feel like that's going to make a big difference on the 6.7. So here you have it. There they are, and they look good. Sheesh. Oh yeah. Yeah, those look good, man. They got good shine on. Look at that. That's crazy. And just as I thought, that was going to be a huge freaking pain in the butt to get those in, because I was having to push those down with all the strength that I had, and it was like I'd get it in there and then it would pop up, and I couldn't get it in that hole right before I tried grabbing wire and tying it down. It's kind of hard to see this thin stuff, and it kept breaking the wire every time I would compress the shock to be able to fit it in. It would snap the wire even when I doubled it up. So I ended up just manhandling it, cramming it in there, pushing it down as hard as I could, and then pushing it in just enough time to catch that hole. I ended up scratching this one, a few nicks all throughout it, because when I was in the process of doing this, I dropped it on the ground, scratched it. This one came out amazing. Here's this side over here. They just need cleaned up, but I mean, they honestly add quite a bit. Like it's a good, definitely a good touch to it. And then now I just got the backs. Hopefully the backs aren't as bad as the front. And just like that, we have the rear shocks in, and that looks 10 times better. Now, one thing that kind of threw me off on shocks, so typically the reservoir is up and the skinny part's down, just like on my 6.0. This is how I've seen shocks before, like that. Like I'm used to installing them. And then I go over to this and it's switched. Now the front's right, but the backs are backwards. And I installed them correctly. This hole is smaller than that one. Like that hole can only take the bolt and hole size that's required. And if you have them backwards, they don't fit reversed, if that makes any sense. So I tried flipping them because that's the way I'm used to it, and it would not work. Flipped it the other way, went in easily. And even on the shock, well, even on the shock, it has an up arrow and a down arrow. So that's how it says they're supposed to be installed. But either way, that looks great. When you do something with that exhaust, we go to the front and it's installed the right way. That side up, that side down. And it's only one way because it has the top thread that has the thread that crosses through it vertically. And I think it definitely adds quite a bit of flair, especially over here in the front with the dual reservoir shocks. So that looks a lot cleaner, and videos do not do this thing justice. It looks 10 times better in person. and it really helps the chrome accents like the headlights, the tow hooks, the grill, emblems, wheels, mirrors, and everything. Adds a lot more of a flair to it. So let me know if this video was very helpful to you guys. I hope I was able to help some of you guys, and don't forget, make sure you guys like and subscribe and stay tuned, because we do a bunch of little things like this, hopefully helping some of you guys, especially new people in the truck scene, with some tips and tricks. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Greatly appreciate you guys for watching the video, and if you got any tips for anyone like me or the people watching that might make this process a little faster, leave a comment down below. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.